Hi guys, let's turn this 3-ounce lethal shot glass from Mother Tumbler into a bat. So these are coated for sublimation, although I will not be using it for sublimation. So I'm going to go ahead and give the whole thing a really good sand, just so everything adheres and it has like a strong hold to it. I'm not using like an electric sander, I'm just using my hand sander. And now I'm using the translucent Sculpey clay. I typically would have used black, although I was out and I plan on kind of airbrushing this black anyways. So I'm going to grab a little ball and I'm going to work that in my hands for a few minutes so that it's nice and soft and easy to work with. After I've done that, I'm going to flatten it into a circle. I usually use an acrylic roller, although I don't know where mine is. And I'm flattening it to my desired thickness. You know, I want these wings to be pretty thick so that they are sturdy. I would say they're probably about 1/3 of an inch thick with the clay. And then after I add the rhinestones and all that, it's about 1/2 inch. So I'm going to roll a second ball because we need 2 wings total. Also, ignore my hands. My eczema hates me, so they're looking rough. So after I have them both flattened, we are going to take our exacto knife and kind of trace out our bat wings. So I'm completely freehanding this. If you're really struggling, you could grab like a picture of like a bat coloring page or something off Google, print it out to the correct size, cut it with some scissors, and then kind of trace that onto your clay. So that's also another option that I like to give you all if you're not comfortable freehanding it. All right, so now we're going to trace our little bat. I personally just referenced a bat that I drew on Procreate. So like I said, go on Google, find, you know, like a wing shape you like, and you'll be fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're rhinestoning this whole thing. So any like little imperfections you see, you will not notice in the end. So here I'm kind of holding it up to decide if I like it or not. And I did not. I did not like it. So now I'm going to try it for a second time. You could also use clay tools for this, but I just like to take my exacto knife and hope for the very best. I'm smoothing it out as I go. You could also use rubbing alcohol to smooth it out if you would like, if that's easier for you. But I like to just use my hands. All right, I believe I like this shape, so I'm kind of just shaping it a little more in my hands, making sure those corners aren't too sharp to where I won't be able to, you know, fit an SS4 rhinestone on it, but also making sure they still have a slight point to them, just so it looks as close to a bat wing as possible. So now I'm putting it on there to decide if I like it, and there were just a few little parts that I had to trim off. I'm focusing on one bat first. Once I'm happy with the one bat wing, I'll have something to follow for my second one. I think I spent a little too much time perfecting this, if I'm being honest. So now I'm going to put that on top of my other circle piece, and I'm going to the best I can, you know, trace the outline of my first wing onto that clay. Okay, now I'm going to take that off. So as you can see, now I have, you know, a little bit of a guide to follow. And I will say, I believe the first time I did this, it was a little wonky. I don't know if I just shut my eyes and was cutting parts, but it didn't match up too great. So I had to do it again. I'm sitting here trying to perfect this when, like I said, after you add the rhinestones, it's going to look the same anyways. So that is where I messed up. As you can see, like there was just too much of a divot there, so I ended up fixing it. So after I have both of my bat wings as close to each other as I possibly can, I'm just going to kind of put each wing on my shot glass, and I'm using my fingers just to kind of move the clay onto the shot glass, just so I know after I bake these and I glue it, you know, it's going to follow that shapeage. We'll call it shapeage. I'm going to bake these in my oven just on a cookie sheet, straight on the cookie sheet with some parchment paper laying flat. I did 275 degrees Fahrenheit. I did about 30 minutes, I believe. Just follow the instructions on your Sculpey packaging because everyone's oven is different, and they give pretty specific directions on how to bake it. So I'm just playing around for a little bit, making sure like this is what I want to do before I go and bake it. Okay? All right, so After they came out of the oven and cooled down, I'm going to use UV resin to adhere this. You could use epoxy, you could use super glue. For some reason, I wanted to make my life harder and messier, and this was the messier option, but it's just kind of what I had on hand. So I put some UV resin there, and I'm going to hold it in place under my UV light until it is fully cured and dried. I will say we're actually going to put a few coats of UV resin over this whole thing, because in my opinion, I don't think that little bit of UV resin attached to the cup with the wing is going to hold up well. I actually made something like this, a flask, and I just glued my wings on and then rhinestoned, and then I actually dropped it and a wing broke off. So the clay itself is strong, but the adherence wasn't super great. So now I'm taking extra precautions this time, to make sure. So I'm even putting some extra UV resin right around the edges, and I'm going to cure that as well. I'm not worried about little bumps or it being perfect, because like I said, we're rhinestoning, we're spray painting this, like everything is going to be fine, right? I hate how it looks yellow under the light. It freaks me out. So as you can see, we have a bunch of UV resin holding that together. So I'm going to do the very same thing on the other side. Super glue would work too, but I kind of wanted something that would fully cure in like 2 minutes so that I could continue my project. All right, so now we're doing the other one. This part is a little tedious, I'm not going to lie, because I feel like the UV resin can't really reach all of the areas because it's like covered by the clay, so that's why I kind of reinforced it after as well. I love PDB UV resin, it's literally my favorite. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a little bit right there, and then again on the other side. Like, I'm not letting anything happen to these wings. They will not fall off. I'm convinced if I threw this into my yard, like the finished product, that it would be fine. Okay? So, extra UV resin. After that, I'm going to put 2 coats of UV resin over the whole thing. You could also use epoxy, but like I said, I wanted something that would cure fast so that I could go ahead and rhinestone. So there's no reason why you couldn't do this part right here in epoxy as well. I just put UV resin over the whole thing, and I covered my wings as well, and I let that spin with my UV lamp under it for a few minutes. Also, by doing this, we could spray paint the wings, okay? You can't spray paint directly onto clay. I typically use my airbrush machine because you can use an airbrush. But if we're covering those clay pieces with UV resin and then spray painting, it worked out absolutely perfect. Just a thought. So that's all I'm doing here. I did a full coat of UV resin, let it cure, and then I actually ended up doing a second coat as well. I wasn't super worried about the UV resin being fully level, because I'm gonna say it again, we're rhinestoning this whole thing. So if I planned on glittering this, or just spray painting it and adding a little decal or something, I would pay more attention to that, but we're not, so I'm okay with a few bumps and bruises. I also think I should have glittered this whole thing because I think it would have been so cute. So maybe I'll make a second one and just glitter and epoxy it. Alright, and here's how I put my UV light under it with my Dino's Turner. So I spray painted the whole thing black. I didn't show that. And now I'm taking Obsidian Glam Glass rhinestones. I'm using the multi-mix that came in my rhinestone subscription, but you can also just go on PDB's website and buy a bag of each size from SS4 to SS20. You're going to want them all. I also had an extra bag of just the SS4, the little baby ones, so I added that to my mix as well because I feel like I needed more of the itty bitty ones. So I'm taking liquid fusion, I put it in this little syringe, and I like to do little parts at a time. Sometimes I'll even take my paintbrush to kind of spread the liquid fusion around, and I'm starting with my bat wing, and I'm using my rhinestone tool, and I'm just applying my rhinestones in a scatter method. There's not much to it. There's no pattern. I'm just laying different size rhinestones down, and I'm kind of just making them fit into each other. So I did record part of this. I'm obviously not going to record the whole thing because you don't want to watch a 48-hour video. But I will speed some parts up. I know it's really hard for you guys to see the black on black through the camera, so I'll kind of hold it closer in a little bit and show you. But this is just the scatter method. We are covering the whole thing except for the very bottom in rhinestones, and I'm using all sizes to make them fit into each other. I'm even using the really big ones on the wings as well. So you'll be able to see at the end when I show a photo of what the scatter method looks completed. But other than that, I'm just going to put some music on so you're not sitting in silence and you can kind of watch me. I'll show updates, I'll speed some parts up, and if you guys have any questions, please go ahead and comment below. I will link absolutely everything that I used in this video below, and I hope you guys enjoy. Oh, also, before I go, I let my liquid fusion dry for 48 hours total. So 48 hours after I place my very last rhinestone, I'll go ahead and wash it and it'll be done.